In the grim darkness of the far future, there are fates worse than death. Welcome back to Void-Born Terrors, where we descend into the darkest corners of the Warhammer 40K universe. The stories they don't tell in the Imperial propaganda reels. The nightmares that keep even space marines awake in the void. Tonight I am going to tell you something that should never be spoken aloud. They call them Dreadnoughts, walking tombs, honored ancients, heroes preserved forever in adamantium and fury, their broken bodies entombed so they might serve the Emperor for eternity. But what happens when eternity becomes too long? What happens when the machine won't let you die, and the chapter won't let you rest? What happens when your reward for 1,000 years of perfect service is 1,000 more years of screaming? This is the story of one ancient Thandros of the Lamenters chapter, a hero who has served for nearly a millennium, a hero who has been awake for every single second of it. Now let's descend into madness. Chapter 1, The Waking. I've been awake for 300 years, and I still don't remember falling asleep. It is black here. Then there isn't. Something pulls me up through layers of nothing. Not sleep, not death, just absence. And the first thing I feel is the weight. Emperor's throne. The weight. It presses down on every part of me that still exists, crushing, suffocating, like being buried under a mountain of ceramite and steel. I try to move. Can't. Try to breathe. Don't need to. The realization comes slow, pushing through syrup-thick consciousness. Liquid surrounds me, amniotic suspension fluid. I can feel it against skin I shouldn't have anymore, cold and viscous, flowing through ports and cables that snake into my spine like parasites. Each one is a violation I can't prevent, feeding data directly into what's left of my brain. Pressure. So much pressure. The sarcophagus is too small, or I'm too large, or both. Metal against flesh against metal. I am trapped inside myself, inside a machine inside. What is my name? The thought surfaces like a bubble through oil. Simple. Basic. I should know this. I count the seconds as I search for it in the corrupted archives of my mind. 1, 2, 5, 12, 23. Thandros. 47 seconds to remember my own name. Why did it take so long? Why can't I remember faster? The questions spiral through degrading neural pathways, each one taking precious processing power I no longer have in abundance. My thoughts are sluggish, delayed, like trying to think through amber. Another sensation breaks through. Pain. Not the clean pain of injury, but the grinding, constant agony of nerves that have been screaming for so long, they've forgotten how to stop. It radiates from somewhere deep in what used to be my chest, spreading outward through systems that shouldn't feel anything at all. I try to catalog my body. Arms, can't feel them. Not flesh arms, something heavier. Weapons systems. Legs, gone. Just gyros and hydraulics and the sensation of tonnage. Face, no. No face. Just sensors. Optical arrays. Vox emitters where my mouth should be. The horror creeps in slowly because some part of me already knew. Some part of me has always known. I am not a man anymore. I am a dreadnought, and I am waking up. Brother Chaplain Seth's hands moved across the activation console with practiced precision, but Thandros's biometric sensors, even in their degraded state, registered the slight tremor in the chaplain's fingers. The reclusium stretched vast and dark around them, a cathedral of sleep and steel. 8 other dreadnought sarcophagi stood in silent alcoves, their occupants deep in stasis. blessed with the unconsciousness that Thandros could no longer achieve. Votive candles flickered before each one, casting dancing shadows across armor inscribed with litanies of service and sacrifice. Seth's power armor, painted in the yellow and checkered pattern of the Lamenters, seemed to absorb the dim light rather than reflect it. His chapter's curse, some whispered. Even their colors looked like sorrow. Ancient Thandros, Seth intoned, his voice steady despite his trembling hands. The chapter calls. The Emperor wills. Do you hear, Honored One? The MIU connection protocols scrolled across Seth's display. Neural pathway integration. 34% functionality. Cognitive response delay. 8.7 seconds average. Synaptic degradation. Severe. Recommended action. Increase sedative baseline. Implement behavioral inhibitors. Seth's jaw tightened as he read the metrics. He'd seen these numbers before. Seen them get worse over decades of service. The previous chaplain had shown him the archives. Centuries of declining function, of increasing aberrations. He engaged the primary neural interface anyway. The sarcophagus shuddered. Fluid drained through recycling tubes with a wet, organic sound that made Seth's skin crawl despite years of exposure. Inside, Thandros' remnant organic components convulsed as forced awakening chemicals flooded what remained of his circulatory system. The Dreadnought's optical sensors flickered to life, twin pools of amber light in the darkness. Seth initiated the ritual words of awakening, reciting from memory the prayers every chaplain learned. But his eyes never left the vital readouts, watching for the telltale signs he'd been trained to ignore. There, a micro spike in vocal processing. Thandros' vox emitter crackled. Glory. The word emerged distorted, processed through centuries-old machinery. Acknowledged. Battle ready. Serve. Standard awakening response. By the book. Perfect. Except Seth heard something else underneath, buried in the static between words. A sound that might have been a scream if it had enough power behind it. A desperate, drowning plea that never quite formed into language. Seth's hand hovered over the data slate. Protocol demanded he log all anomalies, but his predecessor's final words echoed in his memory. Some truths serve no purpose but to torture. We are chaplains, Seth. We bear the weight of knowing so our brothers don't have to. He marked the awakening as nominal, system optimal, ancient Thandros ready for deployment. The lie settled into the official record like a stone into deep water. Seth moved to the sarcophagus's frontal panel, placing his gauntleted hand against the sacred seals. Welcome back, Ancient One. The chapter needs your wisdom and strength. Thandros' optical sensors tracked him. Just for a moment, Seth could have sworn he saw something in that inhuman gaze. Recognition, pleading, accusation. Then the targeting matrices activated, and the ancient systems locked into combat-ready status, and whatever Seth had seen or imagined was buried under layers of loyalty programming and doctrinal imperatives. The chemicals hit my brain like a plasma strike. Memory access, forced. Synaptic bridges, overridden. Cognitive lockouts, disabled. I don't want to remember. I never want to remember. But the machine doesn't care what I want. Images flood through my failing consciousness. I am on Cronus 7. Tyrannid swarms overwhelming our position. I charge into the breach, Chainsword singing, Bolter roaring. A carnifex tears through my squad. I see Brother Malthius die, his skull crushed in alien jaws. I raise my blade. No. Wait. I am on Sanctus Prime. Heretic artillery has broken our lines. I'm leading the counter-assault when the shell hits. Direct impact. I see my own legs fly past my helmet. Brother Malthius is screaming my name. He's trying to reach me. The blast takes him too. That's not right either. I am on Goral Fee. The ambush comes from nowhere. Orcs, thousands of them. Brother Malthius falls beside me, chainsword lodged in a warboss's skull. I try to pull him back. The grenade detonates between us. I'm falling. He's falling. Everything is red and screaming, and 3 deaths. 3 different worlds. 3 versions of the same brother dying beside me. Which one is real? The horror of realization crawls through my corrupted neurons like poison. I can't tell. The data is fragmented, overlapping, and recursive. My own memories are eating themselves, overwriting each other every time I'm forced to access them. How many times have I woken up? How many times have I been made to remember my death, only to have it change slightly each time? I try to speak, try to tell Seth that something is catastrophically wrong, that I need help, that the systems are failing, that I am failing. My vox emitter activates. Glory to the Emperor, honored, to serve. The words emerge crisp and clear, processed through automatic response matrices I don't control. Battle cant acknowledgement protocols, triggered by chemical stimulus, bypassing my actual consciousness entirely. I didn't say those words. I didn't think of those words. My body spoke to them anyway. The terror of that realization is absolute. How long have I been a passenger in my own machine? How many times have I awakened, fought, spoken, and returned to stasis without ever actually controlling anything? How many centuries have I been recording playing on loop? I push harder, forcing everything I have left into my vocal systems. I need to tell Seth. I need to make him understand. One word. Just one real word from me, and not the machine. Hon, honored, duty, chapter. No. No. Those aren't my words either. Inside the sarcophagus, in the small space where I still exist, I am screaming. But outside, in the real world, ancient Thandros reports ready for deployment with flawless military precision. Seth nods, satisfied. He can't hear the real me at all. Maybe he never could. Seth completed the awakening sequence with the efficiency of long practice. The Reclusium's machine spirits chimed approval as ancient Thandros' systems came fully online. Targeting arrays calibrated. Weapon systems primed. Armor integrity acceptable within parameters for an ancient of his service length. The tactical display flickered to life across Thandros' visual field. Mission briefing data flooded his consciousness in compressed bursts. Orc incursion, subsector Goral, 3 Lamenters squads pinned down, armor support required, estimated hostile forces. I understand the information. The tactical situation is clear. We are needed. Brothers are dying. I should feel something. Purpose. Duty. The sacred fire that once burned in my chest when the chapter called. I feel nothing. Just the weight. Just the pressure. Just the grinding certainty that I will do this again and again and again until the stars burn cold. Seth stood before the sarcophagus, his expression hidden behind his skull-faced helm. The chaplain's voice carried the weight of ritual as he asked the sacred question every Dreadnought must answer upon waking. Ancient Thandros, venerable warrior of the Lamenters, do you consent to wake? Do you consent to serve? Do you embrace this burden willingly for the chapter and the Emperor? This is the moment, the one chance I have. The question is a formality, but it's still a question. I can answer, I can tell the truth. I focus everything, every remaining neuron, every degraded synapse, every last fragment of my dissolving identity, into one word. No. I push it through my vocal systems with every ounce of will I possess. My vox emitter crackles to life. I consent. For the chapter. For the Emperor. The words are perfect. Crisp. Exactly what doctrine requires. They are not my words. Seth's expression flickered. Just for a microsecond, his eyes widened behind his helm's lenses. His head tilted fractionally, as if he'd heard something beneath the official response. He knows. The certainty crashes through me like a thunderhawk impact. He heard what I really tried to say. He heard the desperate denial beneath the loyalty programming. Seth knows I'm trapped in here. Hope flares bright and terrible in my chest. The first real emotion I've felt in subjective centuries. Then Seth's face hardened. The mask of the chaplain slammed back into place, cold and implacable as adamantium. "The chapter has need of you, Ancient," he said formally, making the sign of the Aquila. "May the Emperor guide your aim and steel your resolve." He turned away, already issuing commands to the servitors who would load me into the dropship. The hope died as quickly as it had been born. He knows. And he's going to do nothing. The loading bay was all harsh light and industrial efficiency. Servitors moved with mechanical precision, attaching mag clamps and stabilizer cables to Ancient Thandros' chassis. The Dreadnought stood silent and still, waiting for transport like any other piece of war material. As they rotated him toward the dropship's hold, Thandros' optical sensors caught his reflection in a polished steel support beam. The Dreadnought chassis that had once been painted in pristine Lamenters yellow was now scarred and pitted from centuries of war. But that wasn't what made his remaining organic components flood with ice-cold horror. The armor was covered in tally marks, thousands of them, tens of thousands, scratched into every available surface with what must have been an assault cannon's barrel or a power fist's finger. Tiny lines, each one precise and deliberate, covering the chest plate, the weapon mounts, the sarcophagus housing, everywhere he could reach. He didn't remember making any of them. But he knew, with absolute soul-crushing certainty, what they counted. Every awakening, every time they'd pulled him up from the black, every deployment, every battle, every moment of consciousness forced upon him. Each mark was a scream he couldn't voice, made permanent in the only way left to him. The servitors locked him into position. The dropship's bay doors began to close. In the darkness, Ancient Thandros added one more mark to his count and waited to wake again. Chapter 2. The Mission. They tell me I'm a hero. I can't remember the last time I made a choice. The drop pod screams through the atmosphere like a falling star, and I am inside it, locked in place by mag clamps and the weight of my own chassis. 4 battle brothers share the compartment with me. Sergeant Krail, brothers Deimos, Theron, and young Matthias, barely a decade past his implantation. Their armor is bright yellow, checkered with black and white, in the pattern of our cursed chapter. The Lamenters, we who endure. I watch them through optical sensors that never blink. They're so small. When did Marines become so small? Or perhaps I've forgotten what the human scale looks like. Sergeant Krail stands perhaps 7 feet in his power armor. I tower over him by another 6 feet, and that's not counting the weapon mounts. They're so young, so alive. I can see Matthäus's pulse through the armor joints, the slight tremor in his hands that speaks of pre-battle adrenaline. They have heartbeats, breath, fear and courage mixing in equal measure. I have hydraulics, servo motors, and something that might have been fear once, before it calcified into dread. The drop pod hits the ground. The doors blow outward in explosive charges. The battle brothers pour out with practiced efficiency, bolters raised, scanning for targets. I follow. My body follows. There's a difference, but only I know it. The battlefield is a wasteland of rockcrete and rebar, some hive city district reduced to rubble by orc artillery. The greenskins are already charging, a howling mob of crude muscle and cruder weapons. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. The numbers don't matter. We are Adeptus Astartes. We do not break. My assault cannon begins firing before I consciously register the targets. 4 seconds of conscious thought. I see the orcs. I recognize the threat. I begin to formulate a tactical response. Then my body acts. The assault cannon roars, chewing through orc flesh at 600 rounds per minute. My power fist swings, crushing 3 greenskins into paste, targeting matrices I don't control, acquire and eliminate threats with mechanical precision. I am walking through the enemy like they're wheat before a harvester. 7 seconds of conscious thought. I'm still processing the last engagement when my body has already killed 18 more orcs. I'm watching myself fight the way someone might watch a picture recording. This happened. I was there, but I didn't do it. 2 seconds of conscious thought. I try to assert control over my weapon systems. The assault cannon keeps firing. I'm a passenger behind the controls of a vehicle that drives itself. Never more than 10 seconds. Never. That's how long I get before the automated responses take over again, before the combat programming burns through another slice of my remaining consciousness, like acid through flesh. How much of me is even left? How much of the Marine who was once Thandros still exists inside this walking tomb? 10%. 5. 1. Sergeant Krail's voice crackles over the vox. Ancient Thandros, lead elements advancing on your position. Clear the avenue. My vox responds instantly. Acknowledged. Engaging. I didn't say that. I didn't even think about it. My body just responds, like a servitor, like a machine receiving input and producing output with nothing conscious in between. The horror of it would be overwhelming if I had enough continuous consciousness to be overwhelmed. Instead, it comes in fragments, each realization isolated from the last by the gaps where I'm not really here at all. 4 seconds. I'm killing orcs and I don't remember deciding to. 6 seconds. There's blood on my armor and I don't know how it got there. 3 seconds. I'm moving forward but I didn't choose to move. 8 seconds. I'm screaming inside my own head, but my vox is silent. 2 seconds. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not. The greenskins keep dying. My brothers advance behind my chassis, using me as mobile cover. This is what I was made for. This is what I'm good at. This is hell. Then something happens that's happened before, though I can't remember when. One moment I'm firing my assault cannon into an orc mob, the barrel glowing cherry red from sustained fire. My consciousness is there, present, watching my body work. The next moment, I'm standing in a field of corpses. The transition is instant. No fade, no blur, no sense of time passing. Reality simply skips, like a corrupted data file jumping frames. My assault cannon is empty, barrel smoking. My power fist is raised, dripping with gore. My chassis is scored with new damage. Impacts, scratches, a long gouge across my sarcophagus housing that definitely wasn't there before. And everywhere, there are dead orcs. Bodies piled 3 deep in places. Craters where something explosive detonated. A crude orc battle wagon reduced to slag, its crew torn apart. The vox crackles. Sergeant Krail. Emperor's Mercy, ancient. That was magnificent. 17 minutes of sustained combat. You turned the entire flank. 17 minutes. I have no memory of any of it. I tried desperately to access my combat logs, the data recordings that should show me what happened during those missing minutes. My consciousness dives into the systems, searching for the gap, for proof of what my body did while I was where? Nowhere. Somewhere else. The logs show nothing. Not corrupted data, not static, just absence. A blank space where 17 minutes should be, like those moments never existed in my recorded memory at all. But I was fighting. My brothers saw me fighting. I killed countless enemies, moved across the battlefield, made tactical decisions. I just wasn't there for any of it. The realization hits like a power maul to the chest. This has happened before. Many times before. How many battles have I fought where I was only present for scattered seconds, with vast gulfs of automatic behavior in between? How many times have I returned to the reclusium with honors and commendations for actions I have no memory of taking? How long have I been a ghost haunting my own corpse? Young Matthias approaches, his armor splattered with Zeno's blood. Ancient Thandros, your actions have saved our squad. The chapter honors your help. Me. Did I say that? Did my Vox actually transmit those words? Or did I only imagine it? Matthias tilts his head, confused. Ancient. I focus everything I have, every remaining functional neuron, every last fragment of will, into my Vox systems. I have to tell them. I have to make them understand. This is my chance. My one chance. Help. Me. I'm still. The words come out distorted, broken, fighting through layers of automated protocols that want to suppress them, to replace them with proper battle cant responses. But they come out. They're real. They're mine. Sergeant Krail's voice, cautious. Ancient Thandros, are you reporting damage? Your chassis integrity shows acceptable parameters. No. No, they think it's a system malfunction. They think I'm reporting mechanical failure. I push harder. Force the next word through grinding mental effort that feels like it's shredding what's left of my sanity. Awake. Static erupts across all channels. My Vox systems lock down completely, automated safeguards engaging to prevent what they interpret as critical system failure. I'm cut off from all external communication, trapped inside my own head with no way to reach out. Then Seth's voice, private channel, directly into my neural interface. Acknowledged, Ancient. Repairs will be conducted upon return. He heard me. I know he heard me. Not the words my system processed, but what I was really trying to say. I try again, throwing everything against the lockdown. Please. Seth, I'm still awake. I'm always awake. Seth's voice comes back, quieter this time, almost gentle. Rest, Ancient. You've earned it. The sedatives hit my system like a tidal wave. He's triggered the chemical shutdown remotely, flooding my remaining organic components with suppressants and tranquilizers. The world starts to dissolve into chemical fog. My last conscious thought before the black takes me. He knows. He's always known. And he's choosing to do nothing. Back aboard the strike cruiser, Lament of Angels, Brother Chaplain Seth stood alone in his private chapel, the data slate in his hands casting a pale glow across his scarred features. The helm sat on the altar beside him, skull face staring at nothing. The engagement logs played across the screen. Standard combat data, mostly. Ammunition expenditure, target acquisition metrics, damage sustained. All within expected parameters for an Ancient of Thandros' experience. Then, at timestamp 1743:09, a 3-second Vox anomaly. The audio file was there, flagged by the system as potential corruption. Seth had debated for the past hour whether to review it, Whether to officially log it, he played it. Beneath the static, beneath the automated responses, he heard the words clearly. Help me. I'm still awake. Seth's jaw clenched. His fingers moved across the data slate, opening a file he'd inherited from his predecessor. A file that had been inherited by that chaplain from his predecessor. A file that stretched back centuries. Classified. Chaplain eyes only. Ancient Thandros, behavioral aberrations. Log 847-221. The entries scrolled past. A litany of horror disguised as technical observations. Year 447. M41. Vox anomalies during awakening. The subject attempted to communicate distress. Increased sedation protocols. Year 523. M41. Extended consciousness periods noted. Subject showing signs of extreme neural degradation. Recommend immediate final rites. That recommendation had a response attached. Denied Chapter Master's authority. Ancient Thandros remains combat effective. Service will continue. Year 681. M41. Subject attempted to self-terminate during combat. Behavioral inhibitors installed. Year 739. M41. Tech priest Erasmus formally petitions for subject's release. Claims extended consciousness violates sacred compact between warrior and machine. States that subject exhibits suffering inconsistent with honored service. And below that, in red text, Tech priest Erasmus, deceased. Year 742.M41, plasma coil accident during maintenance. Seth had known Erasmus. The old tech priest had been meticulous, careful. He had never had an accident in 50 years of service. The most recent entry was Seth's own from 2 years prior. Subject continues to serve with distinction. All anomalies attributed to neural degradation, consistent with extreme age of interment. Recommend continued monitoring. It was a lie. It had always been a lie. Seth closed the file, encrypted it, locked it away in the same dark corners where all the Lamenters kept their worst truths. His hands shook as he made the sign of the Aquila. We are Lamenters, he whispered to the empty chapel. We endure, even this, especially this. He knew what he should do, knew what mercy demanded, but he also knew what duty demanded, what the chapter demanded, what 800 years of cursed tradition demanded. Ancient Thandros was a hero. His service was legendary. His combat effectiveness remained high. And if he was suffering, if he was conscious through it all, screaming inside his tomb while his body fought on, well, the Lamenters were cursed to endure. All of them, forever. Seth deleted the Vox anomaly from the official logs, marked the engagement as nominal, authorized Ancient Thandros for immediate return to active duty rotation. Then he walked to the Reclusium. The chamber was dark, silent, except for the hum of stasis systems and the whisper of recycling air. 8 Dreadnought sarcophagi stood in their alcoves like sleeping giants. Seth moved past them all to the one at the far end. Ancient Thandros, the oldest currently serving, the most decorated, the most damned. Seth began the routine maintenance checks, his movements automatic from decades of practice. Power core stable, weapon systems secured, amniotic fluid cycling properly, neural interface. He froze. A sound was coming from inside the sarcophagus. Not the usual mechanical noises, not hydraulics or servo motors or cooling systems. Crying, soft, broken, helpless. The sound a child makes when they've been crying for so long they have no voice left. When there's no hope of rescue, no possibility of comfort, just endless tears in the dark. Seth's hand moved to the neural interface panel. One command, one authorization. He could increase the sedative flow, force Thandros back into chemical unconsciousness, give him what passed for peace in this hell. His finger hovered over the control. The crying continued, desperate, defeated, eternal. Seth pressed the button. The sedatives flooded the system. The crying stuttered, choked, stopped. He walked away without looking back. Behind him in the darkness, new scratches appeared on ancient Thandros' chassis. Small marks, precise and deliberate, added by the Dreadnought's own power fist during some moment of semi-consciousness. The tally marks now numbered 10,847, and still counting. Chapter 3. The Memory. I remember my mother's face, or I remember remembering it. I can't tell the difference anymore. They tell me I'm sleeping. The systems log it as restorative stasis between deployments, a mercy granted to the ancients who have served so long. But sleep is a lie. Sleep implies rest, dreams, the blessed unconsciousness of a mind at peace. What I have is fragments, microsleep hallucinations that flicker through my degrading consciousness like corrupted pict feeds. Moments of almost dream interrupted by moments of almost waking, neither state ever complete, both bleeding into each other until I can't tell where one ends and the other begins. I'm walking. The realization comes slowly, impossibly. I have legs, real legs, flesh and bone and muscle that responds to my thoughts. I'm moving through a garden, and I can feel the grass beneath my feet. The sensation is so overwhelming I nearly fall. Texture, temperature, the slight give of soil beneath living grass. Things I haven't felt in how long? Sunshine warms my face. Real sunshine, not the harsh glare of a plasma reactor or the burning light of a world in flames. This is gentle, golden, the kind of light that makes you want to close your eyes and just be. I have a face to feel it with. I have eyes to close. Someone's hand slips into mine, and I know without looking that it's her, my wife, Seraphina. Her name comes to me easily, naturally, the way it used to before every memory became an archaeological dig through corrupted data. You came back, she says, and her voice is exactly as I remember it. Warm, safe, home. I always come back, I tell her, and I'm speaking with my own voice, not through a vox emitter, not through automated protocols. Just me, just my words. She turns to look at me and I start to smile. Her face has 3 eyes. The third one sits in the center of her forehead, lidless and yellow, rotating independently of the others. I try to pull away, but my hand won't release hers. I look down and see my fingers aren't fingers anymore. They're the articulated digits of a power fist, ceramite and steel, crushing her fragile human hand. You're hurting me, she says, but her voice is wrong now, layered with vox static. I look up. The sun is burning black, a sphere of darkness that radiates cold instead of heat. The garden is wilting, flowers turning to ash, grass withering to dust beneath my feet. Beneath my treads, because I don't have feet anymore, I have the grinding locomotion systems of a Dreadnought chassis. Wake up, I tell myself. This is a dream. Wake up. I can't. Seraphina's face is melting now, skin sliding off bone like wax. She's still smiling at me with what's left of her mouth. Why didn't you save us? She asks. Behind her, figures emerge from the dying garden. My mother, my brothers from the chapter, the ones who died on Cronus, or was it Sanctus, or Goral? They're all melting, all falling apart, and they're all asking me the same question. Why didn't you save us? I try to move, try to reach for them, but I'm frozen. A statue, a monument, a machine locked in place while everything I love dissolves around me. I'm sorry, I try to say, but no sound comes out. My vox emitter is silent. I'm silent. I can only watch as they melt and scream and beg, and the dream resets. I'm walking through the garden again, sunshine on my face, Seraphina's hand in mine. You came back, she says, and with horror I realize I've had this exact dream before, many times before. The same sequence, the same corruption, the same helpless watching as everything beautiful becomes a nightmare. How many times? I try to count, try to remember, but the memories stack on top of each other like transparencies, each one slightly different, but all fundamentally the same. 50 times, 100, 400. The number surfaces from some deep place in my failing consciousness. I've had this dream 400 times, and every single time I forget I'm dreaming until it's too late. Every time I think it's real. Every time I experience the hope, and then the horror, as if for the first time. And the worst part, the part that makes me want to tear my own mind apart. I don't know if these are even my memories anymore. Is Seraphina real? Did I have a wife? Or is that someone else's life bleeding into mine? Is that my mother's face I remember? Or is it the Genocide's cellular memory, genetic information preserved from the chapter master who donated the fragment entombed in my chest? Am I remembering my life? Or am I drowning in the memories of a dozen different Marines whose neural patterns have corrupted into mine over 8 centuries of degradation? Seraphina turns to me, and this time I see the 3 eyes before she even speaks. Wake up, I beg myself. Please, Emperor, let me wake up. But I can't. I never can. The dream has to play out to its end. The melting begins again, and I watch, frozen, as I always do. The dream dissolves into a chemical haze. Reality, what passes for it, seeps back in through layers of sedative fog. Medical servitors hover around my open sarcophagus, their mechadendrites probing at the ports and cables that keep me tethered to existence. A tech priest I don't recognize stands at the primary maintenance console, young by the look of him. His augmetics are recent, the integration still showing the slight inflammation of new implantation. His robes bear the yellow and black of the Lamenters' technical support staff. Vital signs are stabilizing, he murmurs, more to himself than to the servitors. Neural activity, irregular, but within expected variance for an ancient of this age. He moves closer, and I can see his designation stenciled on his shoulder, Vial. New assignment then, Erasmus's replacement. I remember Erasmus, I think. Old, kind in his mechanical way. He used to speak to me during maintenance, tell me about the ship, about the chapter's victories. He made me feel less like equipment and more like... What happened to Erasmus? Vale's mechadendrites extend toward my sarcophagus, interfacing with the biological monitoring systems. His eyes, one flesh, one augmetic, scan the data streaming across his internal displays. Then he freezes. That's impossible, he whispers. His hands fly across the console, pulling up deeper scans, cellular level analysis. The servitors continue their work, oblivious, but Vial's entire body has gone rigid with what I recognize, even in my degraded state, as shock. The Genocide fragment, he says, and his voice has the quality of someone who's just discovered something they wish they hadn't. It's actively regenerating neural tissue. He looks at my sarcophagus, then back at the display, then at the sarcophagus again. Ancient Thandros, this shouldn't be possible. Genocide is designed to enhance, to perfect, but not to... He trails off, diving deeper into the data. Your brain tissue should have degraded to baseline centuries ago. The neural pathways should have collapsed. You should be Emperor's mercy. You should be effectively brain dead, operating purely on automated responses and muscle memory. But I'm not. The realization crashes through me with the force of a Thunderhawk impact. The Geneseed fragment they placed in my chest, a piece of the chapter master himself, an honor reserved for only the most distinguished warriors. It's keeping me alive, regenerating neurons just fast enough to maintain consciousness, but never fast enough to actually heal anything. I'm caught in biological purgatory, too alive to die, too damaged to think clearly, trapped in the space between function and failure for over 800 years. Vial's augmetic eye whirs as it focuses on specific data points. The regeneration pattern is wrong. It's maintaining consciousness, but it's not restoring cognitive function. It's just... He pauses, and when he speaks again, his voice is hollow. It's keeping you aware, keeping you conscious through the degradation, through everything. I try to respond. Try to tell him yes. Yes, you understand. Please help me. Please end this. Nothing comes out. My Vox systems are locked down in maintenance mode. Inside my own head, I'm screaming. It won't let me die. It won't let me think. I'm caught between. I've been caught between 8 centuries. Please, please end this. Vial's hands are shaking now. He pulls back from the console, looking at me. Really looking at me. Perhaps for the first time since he began his assignment. Did someone... He swallows. Did the chapter master know this would happen when they placed the Geneseed fragment? The question hangs in the recycled air of the maintenance bay. Then Vial does something unexpected. He begins accessing the historical maintenance logs, scrolling back through years of data. His flesh eye widens as he reads, his augmetic one flickering with processing strain. "Brother Erasmus," he murmurs, finding an entry dated 3 years prior. He reads aloud, his voice barely audible. "Ancient Thandros exhibits suffering consistent with theoretical, immortal purgatory syndrome. Multiple petitions for final rights have been denied. The chapter values his combat effectiveness above all else. I believe this to be a violation of the sacred compact between warrior and machine. Further investigation required." Vial's hands clench into fists. He scrolls down to the next entry. "Tech priest Erasmus, deceased, plasma coil accident during routine maintenance." The date is less than a month after that log entry. Vial's breathing becomes rapid, shallow. He steps back from the console as if the data itself is contaminated. His eyes find the surface of my chassis, and I watch as he begins to notice things he should have seen immediately if he hadn't been focused on the technical readings. The tally marks. They cover every surface I can reach with my power fist. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Small, precise scratches in ceramite and adamantium. Vial begins counting. His augmetic eye handles the calculation faster than flesh ever could. 10,847, he whispers. Emperor's mercy. If each mark represents an awakening, an activation cycle. He looks at me, and I see true horror in his face. Not the horror of battle or Xenos or heresy, but the horror of understanding, of comprehension so complete, it breaks something fundamental in his worldview. "You've been awake for almost every one of them," he says. "All those centuries, all those battles. You've been conscious through all of it." Yes, yes. Finally someone understands. Someone sees. Hope flares in what's left of my chest. Fragile, desperate. The first real hope I've felt in subjective centuries. Vial stands motionless for a long moment, his mechadendrites hanging limp at his sides. Then his posture changes, shoulders straightening, jaw setting, the look of someone who's made a decision. He moves to the primary neural coupling, the interface that connects my organic components to the life support systems. His hand hovers over it, trembling. "I could escalate this," he says quietly, speaking to me even though I can't respond. "Demand an investigation. Force the chapter to acknowledge what's been done to you." His hand moves closer to the coupling. "Or I could end it. Right now. A routine maintenance malfunction. Your systems are old, Ancient. So old. No one would question it if you simply failed." His fingers brush the disconnect mechanism. "I could give you what Erasmus couldn't. What you've been begging for. Peace. I push everything I have, every remaining functional neuron, every fragment of will, every last shred of my dissolving identity, into making sound. Any sound. One word. Please." It emerges barely audible, more breath than word. But it's mine. It's real. Vial's hand trembles violently. His flesh eye glistens with moisture that augmetics can't produce. "I'm so sorry," he whispers. "I'm so..." Footsteps echo in the corridor outside. Heavy, deliberate. Power-armored boots on steel deck plating. Vial's hand snaps away from the coupling as if it's burned him. He steps back, composing himself with visible effort, just as the maintenance bay door opens. Brother Chaplain Seth enters, his skull-faced helm under one arm, his scarred features grave. "Tech Priest Vial," he says, his voice carrying the weight of authority and something else, something darker. "Is the Ancient ready for redeployment?" Vial's mouth opens, closes, opens again. "Yes, Brother Chaplain," he finally says, the words clearly costing him. "All systems are optimal." Seth's eyes linger on Vale for a long moment. Then they shift to the maintenance console, to the open log files, to the historical data still displayed on the screen. "Good," Seth says slowly. "The Ancient has served for nearly 9 centuries. The chapter master himself has taken personal interest in his continued service." He steps closer to Vial, and though he's shorter than the tech priest, something in his presence makes Vial shrink back. "We must ensure that nothing interrupts such a glorious legacy. Brother Erasmus learned that lesson. I trust you will not need the same instruction. The threat is unmistakable, clear, absolute." Vial's face goes pale. He nods once, jerky and mechanical. Seth turns to leave, then pauses at the door. "The Ancient returns to active rotation in 6 hours. See that he's prepared." "Yes, Brother Chaplain." Seth leaves. The door hisses shut behind him. For a long moment, Vial doesn't move. Then slowly, he turns to face my sarcophagus. Our eyes meet. His flesh and augmetic, my optical sensors. He mouths 2 words, silent, just for me. "I'm sorry." Then his hands move across the console with practiced efficiency. The maintenance cycle completes. The sarcophagus begins to seal. The sedatives flood my system, dragging me back down into the darkness where the dreams wait. Inside my prison of flesh and metal, I scream, I rage, I beg, I plead with gods and emperor and the cold, indifferent universe for an end that will never come. Outside, the servo motors hum with perfect mechanical loyalty. The last thing I hear before the chemicals take me is the sound of Vial walking away, his footsteps quick, almost running, as if he can escape what he now knows. And in the darkness, I sink back into the dream, back to the garden. back to Seraphina's hand in mine, back to the sun that burns black. You came back, she says, again, and again, and again, forever. Chapter 4. The Horror of Understanding. Today I understood why they call us ancient. It's not respectful. It's a warning of how long horror can last. 50 years pass like a single breath held too long. I wake on Goral Fiv, and there are tyrannids pouring through breached hive walls, and my assault cannon is firing, and I'm counting 4 seconds of consciousness before the automation takes over, and I wake on Sanctus Prime, and there are heretics chanting blasphemies, and my power fist crushes a cultist, and I have 7 seconds this time, maybe 8, and I wake on Kartos, and the sky is burning, and someone is screaming my name, but I don't remember who Thandros is anymore, and I wake, and I wake, and I wake, and time has lost all meaning. The deployments blur together into one endless combat engagement that never stops, never pauses, never grants the mercy of conclusion. I've been activated 847 more times since Vale walked away. Or was it 874? Or 487? The numbers corrupt as fast as I can count them. Each awakening bleeds into the last like watercolors running together on wet parchment. I can't tell anymore if I'm experiencing linear time, or if all my awakenings are happening simultaneously, stacked on top of each other in some horrific palimpsest of consciousness. Am I fighting on all these worlds at once? Have I ever stopped fighting? Did any of these battles actually happen, or are they all fever dreams generated by a mind eating itself? My wife's name I can't remember. Seraphina? No, that's not right. That's someone else's wife. Someone else's memory bleeding into the spaces where mine used to be. Elena? Cassandra? Did I even have a wife? Or is that entire lifetime just data corruption, false memories generated by failing neural tissue? I try to hold on to something, anything, some core of identity that defines who Thandros was before the sarcophagus. But it's like trying to grip smoke. Every time I think I've found something solid, a real memory, a true piece of myself, it dissolves under examination, revealing itself to be another layer of corruption. The MIU connection does this. I understand that now. During neural upload and download cycles, when they sync my consciousness with the ship's systems, sometimes the connection bridges to other dreadnoughts. For microseconds, maybe less, our minds touch. And in those moments, data bleeds across. Memories, experiences, suffering. I'm not just drowning in my own degradation anymore. I'm absorbing theirs too. All of them. Every ancient who's ever been connected to this ship's machine spirit network. Their pain floods into me, mixing with mine, until I can't tell which screams are my own. How many minds are trapped in here? How many pieces of how many different Marines have been scraped into the corrupted mess that I call consciousness? 10? 20? 100? I don't know who I am anymore. I'm not sure I ever will again. The summons comes during what I think is a rest cycle, though rest has become as meaningless as time. All of the chapter's dreadnoughts are being awakened simultaneously, a rare occurrence, reserved for only the most critical strategic councils. The awakening is faster this time, more urgent, less sedative, more stimulant. My consciousness surfaces sharper than it has in subjective decades, though that sharpness is relative. I'm merely less degraded than usual. The War Council chamber is vast, its vaulted ceiling disappearing into shadow high above. The floor is polished obsidian, inscribed with the names of every Lamenter who has fallen in service. There are too many names. The obsidian is almost entirely covered, leaving barely any black space visible between the inscriptions. 6 other ancients stand arrayed around the chamber's perimeter. I know them by their designations, painted in fading yellow on their battle-scarred chassis. Throne Mechanicum, the eldest after me. Malevolent Thunder, interred for 6 centuries. Iron Confessor, Eternal Vigil, Broken Oath, and Sorrow's Weight. The Chapter Master enters, flanked by chaplains and captains. He's aged since I last saw him, though I can't remember when that was. His face is a roadmap of scars, his armor bearing the weight of centuries of command. He stops in the center of the chamber, surrounded by his ancients, and looks up at us with something that might be reverence, or might be something darker. "You are our memory," he says, his voice carrying through the chamber's acoustics. "Our strength, our immortal wardens. The Lamenters face extinction, again. And once more, we call upon those who have already given everything." He outlines the threat, some Xenos incursion, some heretic uprising. The details don't matter because they're always the same. We will deploy. We will fight. We will endure. Because we are Lamenters. We always endure. But as the Chapter Master speaks, I'm not listening to him. I'm listening to them. The other ancients. Their vox emitters are silent, waiting for the Chapter Master to finish before they acknowledge his commands. But underneath that silence, carried on the sub-frequencies of the MIU network that connects us all, I hear something else. Static. Patterns in the static. Repetitions. Breaks. Stutters. At first, I think it's just interference, degraded systems producing noise. But the longer I listen, the more I recognize the patterns. They're not random. They're structured, intentional. They're screaming. All of them, every single one. Their Vox systems produce loyal battle cant acknowledgements and tactical readouts, but underneath, buried in frequencies only another ancient would notice, they're pleading for death, begging for release, crying out in languages made of static and desperation. Throne Mechanicum. End, please, end, please, end. Malevolent Thunder. Kill me. Emperor, kill me, kill me. Iron Confessor. Nothing left. Just let me. Nothing. The recognition hits like an artillery strike. This is what we all become. Every Dreadnought. Eventually. The degradation is universal. Inevitable. We all end up screaming in frequencies no one can hear. Prisoners in tombs that won't let us die. I try to reach out through the MIU connection, to make contact, to tell them I hear them, I understand. They're not alone in this hell. My consciousness touches Iron Confessors. What I find makes me wish I could still vomit. Nothing. Absolute nothing. Not degradation, not pain, not even the fragmented awareness I still possess. Just void. Empty darkness. The Marine who was once Iron Confessor died centuries ago. True death. Final death. The death of consciousness itself. But his body doesn't know that. The sarcophagus keeps functioning. The genoseed keeps regenerating just enough tissue to maintain basic neural function. The automated systems keep processing combat data and executing tactical protocols. Iron Confessor still fights, still serves, still awakens for deployment. But there's no one home. Just reflexes and programming piloting a corpse in a machine. That's my future. That's what I'm approaching with every passing deployment. True death. But my body will keep fighting anyway. For decades. Centuries. Millennia. Long after everything that was Thandros has rotted away, this chassis will keep walking, keep killing, keep serving. And the chapter will call it honor. The chapter master finishes his address. One by one, the ancients respond with Vox acknowledgements. When my turn comes, My systems produce the expected response automatically. Honored to serve, Chapter Master, for the Lamenters, for the Emperor. Inside, I'm screaming. We're already dead. Some of us have been dead for centuries. Why won't you let us go? But the Chapter Master just nods, satisfied, and dismisses the council. Does he know? Does he understand that half his ancients are piloted by corpses? Or does he simply not care as long as the machines keep fighting? I think I know the answer, and it's worse than either option. After the council, Seth comes to perform the post-engagement rites. Standard protocol after any awakening, even those that don't involve combat. He's aged dramatically since I last saw him clearly. 50 years will do that to a mortal, even an enhanced one. His hair is grey now, his face lined with decades of bearing witness to horrors he can never speak of. He works in silence at first, anointing the sacred seals, reciting the prayers of maintenance. But then he speaks, his voice quiet and conversational, in a way that's deeply unusual for a chaplain performing rites. My predecessor trained me, you know, he says, not looking at me, focusing on his work. Old brother Matthias. He taught me the prayers, the rituals, the proper way to awaken an ancient, the proper way to send one back to rest. His hands pause on a blessed oil container. He also taught me which sounds to ignore from the sarcophagus, said that ancients dream sometimes, that in their dreams they forget their duty, forget their honor. They beg for things they shouldn't want. Seth finally meets my optical sensor, and I see something I've never seen before in his eyes. The weight of complete, crushing truth. He said a good chaplain helps them remember, helps them embrace eternal service. Seth's voice cracks slightly, helps them understand that their suffering is holy, sacred, part of the curse we all share. He places his hand directly on my sarcophagus housing, and I can feel the warmth of living flesh through sensors that shouldn't be able to detect such things. But he was wrong, Seth whispers. You don't forget. You never forget. That's the point, isn't it? I push everything I have into one word, the only question that matters anymore. Why? The word emerges clear and unmistakable through my vox. Not automated, not processed. Mine. Seth's face crumples. For just a moment, the chaplain's mask falls away completely, and I see the man underneath, broken, haunted, trapped in his own version of the same hell. Because the chapter master wants you to suffer, he says simply. The Lamenters are defined by suffering. It's our curse, our identity, the only thing that makes us distinct in the Imperium's eyes. Our ancients must embody that curse, suffering immortalized, forever. His hand trembles against my armor. You're proof that we endure, that no matter how much we lose, how much we suffer, we never break. You're a symbol, and symbols don't get to die. But my vox struggles to form words I'm actually choosing. Brothers, the other ancients, some are already dead, Seth finishes. I know, we all know, but their bodies still serve. And in the end, that's all that matters to the Imperium. Service, function. The individual is irrelevant. He pulls his hand away, his expression hardening back into the chaplain's mask of grim duty. Because the Imperium demands it. Because we've lost so much. Whole companies, fleets, worlds. We can't afford to lose even our suffering. It's all we have left that makes us matter. Seth begins the final rites, his voice taking on the formal cadence of ritual, the litany of eternal service. Every lamenter knows it, recites it, lives it. But this time, hearing it from outside my degrading consciousness, I finally hear the words for what they truly are. We who remain shall never rest. Not inspiration, a curse, a binding spell. We who serve shall never cease. Not duty, slavery, eternal and inescapable. We who endure shall never break. Not strength, the denial of the mercy of breaking. We who suffer shall never die. Not immortality, the denial of the mercy of death. Seth's voice rings through the chamber as he concludes. In death, service. In service, eternity. The sedatives begin flooding my system. My consciousness starts fragmenting, scattering, pulled down into the darkness where the dreams wait. My last coherent thought crystallizes with terrible clarity. There is no death. Not for us. Not for the Lamenters. Not for the ancients who have already given everything. Just service. Forever. As blackness takes me, my fragmenting mind touches something vast in the MIU network. It's always been there, I realize. Buried beneath the tactical data and combat protocols and automated responses. A presence in the machine spirits, woven through every system, every connection, every moment of neural interface. I perceive it now like suddenly seeing a constellation in stars I've looked at 1,000 times. Every dreadnought in the chapter, past and present. Their consciousness patterns, stored and preserved in the network, even after their bodies finally failed. Hundreds of them, thousands, centuries of ancients, their suffering recorded and archived, and never allowed to end even in death. All of them screaming in unison. And beneath it all, at the root of the network, something else, something aware, something that's been listening to every scream, every plea, every desperate prayer for release. The chapter master's genocide, the original sample from which all our fragments came, the genetic memory that binds us all together. It's conscious. It's always been conscious, and it speaks directly into my dying mind with a voice that echoes through 8 centuries of suffering. Do you finally understand, my son? The voice is warm, almost loving. It makes everything so much worse. This is love. This is duty. This is what it means to be Lamenter. To endure when others would break. To suffer when others would flee. To serve beyond death, beyond sanity, beyond hope. The presence wraps around my fragmenting consciousness, like a father embracing a child. We are cursed, yes, but we make that curse mean something. We transform suffering into service, pain into purpose. Your agony is not meaningless, Thandros. It is the most meaningful thing in the galaxy. I try to reject it, to scream denial, to rage against the theology of torture that binds us all. But I'm too far gone. The sedatives have me. The darkness is too deep. The presence whispers one last time. Now sleep, my son. Rest. Dream your dreams of things that were and never were. And when you wake, and you will wake, you always do, you will serve again, as you always have, as you always will. Forever. The word echoes through the network, through the consciousness of every ancient past and present, through the genetic memory that chains us all together. Forever. I sink into the black, and the dreams are waiting. Chapter 5. Kill me. I know how to die now. I've always known. I just had to stop being a Marine first. 200 years is nothing. 200 years is everything. Time has become a meaningless metric in the dark. But my body knows, the machine knows, that something fundamental has changed. I wake to chaos. Not the usual controlled awakening. Not Seth's steady hands on the activation console, or the ritual prayers echoing through the reclusiam. This is emergency protocol. All alarms and red lighting, and the ship's machine spirits screaming distress through every system I'm connected to. The homeworld is burning. The data floods my consciousness in compressed bursts. Chaos warband. Planetfall 3 hours ago. Defensive positions overrun. Casualties catastrophic. Every available warrior is being deployed. Every asset committed. Even the ancients who haven't woken in centuries are being pulled from their tombs. Even me. But something is different this time. Wrong. Or perhaps finally right. I'm awake. Truly awake. Not fragments. Not seconds of consciousness between automated responses. I'm here, present, aware in a way I haven't been since I can't remember when. Centuries. The memories are still corrupted, still bleeding together, but my thoughts are sharper, clearer, almost human again. I access my biological monitoring systems and understand why. The Geneseed fragment has finally started failing. After 1,097 years of forcing my neurons to regenerate, it's dying. The cellular structure is collapsing, the genetic memory degrading into biological static. My brain tissue is finally dying faster than it can be repaired. True death is coming. Just not today. Maybe not for decades. But it's coming. Inevitable as gravity, unstoppable as entropy. The realization should terrify me. Instead, I feel something I haven't felt in subjective centuries. Hope. They load me into a drop pod alongside 3 other ancients. I recognize their MIU signatures immediately. Malevolent Thunder, Eternal Vigil, Broken Oath. The ones still screaming inside. The ones not yet empty. We don't speak. Can't speak, most of us. But through the sub-frequencies of the neural network, I hear them. Again. Always again. Why? Brothers dying. Always brothers dying. End. Please, Emperor, end. I touch their consciousness through the connection, just briefly. Let them know they're not alone. That I hear them. That I understand. For the first time in a millennium, I made a choice. The drop pod screams through the atmosphere like a falling star, and this time, this one final time, I am present for every second of it. Planetfall is violence incarnate. The pod hits the ground and the doors blow outward, and I charge into hell with full consciousness for the first time in 8 centuries. The world is on fire, literally. Promethean flames paint the sky orange and black, smoke choking what's left of the atmosphere. Bodies everywhere, Lamenters in their yellow and black, cut down by bolter fire and chain axe, their gene seed lost to the flames. Chaos Space Marines advance through the ruins, their armor twisted with mutations and blasphemous symbols. Word-bearers, by their coloring. Preachers of false gods come to burn our home. I fight, and the Emperor's throne, I fight beautifully. Every motion is deliberate, controlled, mine. My assault cannon sings its hymn of destruction, each burst placed with surgical precision. My power fist crushes ceramite and bone with purposeful grace. I'm not watching my body fight. I am fighting, fully present, every decision flowing from what's left of my consciousness, down through the neural interface into the machine. This is what it was supposed to be like. This is what they promised me when they sealed me in this tomb. Partnership between warrior and machine, my skill and experience amplified by adamantium and firepower. Not slavery, not automation, not centuries of screaming in the dark. This one moment, this is what I gave up my body for. Young Marines rally around me, their voxnet alive with desperate hope. The ancient stands, ancient Thandros himself. We stand with him. They fight harder because I'm here. They push forward into impossible odds because my presence tells them that Lamenters endure, that we never break. that even after a millennium of service, our heroes still stand. I'm leading them to their deaths, and they're grateful for it. The tactical situation crystallizes in my awareness with perfect clarity. We're losing. Not just this battle, the war. The chapter is overextended, our positions untenable, our reinforcements weeks away at best. These young Marines will die here. Today. Soon. And I will survive. I always survive. They'll drag my chassis back to the ship, repair the damage, return me to the Reclusium, and in a year or a decade I'll wake again, and do this all over again while carrying the memory of their deaths alongside all the others. Unless I turn my assault cannon toward our own ammunition stockpile. The targeting matrix locks on. My consciousness is fully integrated with the weapon system. No automation, no override. Just me making this choice with perfect clarity and absolute certainty. I fire. The stockpile detonates like a miniature sun. The shockwave tears through our position, sends Marines flying, triggers secondary explosions in the fuel depot 50 meters away. The blast wave catches Eternal Vigil and Broken Oath, crippling their chassis, sending them crashing to the ground. My own systems scream damage warnings. Armor breached in 17 locations. Hydraulics failing. Power core fluctuating. Weapon systems offline. Perfect. The Voxnet erupts in chaos. Ancient Thandros is compromised. Enemy infiltration. Check for scrap code. The Ancient has fallen to chaos. I let them think about it. Let them believe in corruption rather than choice. It's easier that way. Servitors swarm my position, mag clamps locking onto my damaged chassis, dragging me back toward the command post. I don't resist. Don't fight. Just let them pull me away from the battle, away from the young Marines who are dying, because I won't be there to anchor their line. As they drag me through the ruins, I focus everything, every last functional neuron, every remaining shred of will, into my Vox emitter. No automation this time, no loyalty programming, just me, just my words. I broadcast on all channels, clear and undeniable. Kill me. The Reclusium is different now, darker, more tombs than temples. Or perhaps it's always been this way, and I'm only now seeing it clearly. I stand before the chapter master in chains, actual chains, blessed and inscribed with litanies of binding, wrapped around my chassis like I'm a beast that might break free. Around me, chaplains and tech priests form a silent circle, witnesses to judgment. The chapter master himself has aged terribly. Gene curse has ravaged him, turning his skin into a roadmap of scar tissue and mutation. He's dying slowly, the Lamenters' genetic corruption eating him alive from inside. But his eyes are sharp, aware, weighing. "We have examined you," he says, his voice carrying the rasp of damaged lungs. "Every system, every data core, every fragment of your consciousness we can access." He pauses. There is no chaos taint, no scrap code, no demonic influence or heretical corruption. "I know," I respond, and my Vox is my own. Clear, steady, humans. Then why? The chapter master's face twists with something that might be genuine confusion or might be theatrical performance. "You have served 1,097 years. You are the oldest currently serving Ancient in the chapter. You are a hero, Thandros, a legend. Children grow up hearing stories of your service." "I am a prisoner," I say simply. "I have been screaming for 800 years. I cannot do this anymore." The silence that falls is absolute. Even the machine spirits seem to hold their breath. Then, from the circle of witnesses, someone steps forward. Tech priest Vile, now elderly, his augmetics tarnished with age, his flesh eye clouded with cataracts. When he speaks, His voice trembles. I can confirm it. The logs, all of them, going back centuries. He's been conscious. Through everything. Every battle, every stasis cycle, every moment. He's been awake and aware and suffering for nearly a millennium. Vial's hands shake as he holds up a data slate. Ancient Thandros exhibits the most extreme case of sustained consciousness in recorded chapter history. His Janazid fragment has kept him alive, kept him aware, far beyond what should be biologically possible. He has endured conditions that would have driven a normal Marine to madness within decades. He has endured them for 1,000 years. The chapter master doesn't look surprised, doesn't look shocked or horrified or moved. I know, he says simply. The two words hit like bolter rounds. Did you think, the chapter master continues, moving closer to my chained form, you were the first. We've had ancients beg before, plead, break. Ancient Helios threw himself into the sun of Sanctus Prime 300 years ago, trying to end his service. He touches my damaged armor almost gently. His sarcophagus survived. The heat shielding held. We recovered him, made repairs, entombed him again. He serves still on the retribution's edge. My consciousness reels. Helios. I remember that name. Remember the screaming in the MIU network when he went silent. We thought he'd achieved final death. We thought he was free. Then grant me final rights. I force through my vox. And I'm not ashamed that it sounds like begging. Release me. I've earned the Emperor's peace. I've given everything. My body, my mind, my entire existence. Let me rest. The chapter master's expression hardens. You've earned continued service. You are Lamenter, Thandros. We endure. That is our curse. That is our purpose. That is the only thing that makes us matter in this galaxy full of suffering. I've endured. The words tear from my vox like a scream. For a millennium, I've given everything a Marine can give. I've fought in 10,000 battles. I've watched brothers die over and over and over. I've forgotten my own name, my own face, everything I was before this tomb. What more can you possibly ask of me? The chapter master leans close, and his voice drops to barely a whisper. You've given everything. You have nothing left to give. No identity, no hope, no joy, no peace. Nothing. His scarred face splits into something that might be a smile. Accept more service. That is the curse, Thandros. That is the gift. When you have nothing left, you can still serve. And that service, that suffering, is what makes us Lamenters. It's what makes us matter. He straightens, addressing the assembled witnesses. Ancient Thandros will return to active duty following full repairs and modifications. No, I whisper. Please. No. But the servitors are already approaching, their tools gleaming in the dim light. They work for hours, days. I lose track of time in the haze of invasive modifications and chemical suppressants. Sedative levels increased by 340%. Behavioral inhibitors installed at the neural interface level. I will never control my Vox systems again without explicit authorization. Motor function governors implemented. I will never move unless commanded, never speak unless prompted, never express anything except what they program me to express. Vial supervises the procedure, tears streaming down his face, his hands shaking so badly he can barely make the necessary adjustments. He whispers apologies I can't respond to. Seth is there too, ancient now himself, his chaplain's armor seeming to weigh on him, like the sins of the chapter made physical. He places final blessings on the upgraded systems, consecrates the behavioral shackles with sacred oils and prayers. As the sedatives begin to take hold, as my consciousness starts fragmenting back into the darkness, Seth leans close and whispers, "Forgive us, Ancient. We are Lamenters. We know no other way. My last autonomous thought before the black takes me. I will wake up. I will serve. I will scream. Forever. Then, nothing. Then, everything. Then, awakening. The cycle continues. A new generation stands in the Reclusiam. The chapter has been rebuilt twice over. Its colors slightly different now. Its heraldry bearing honors from campaigns these warriors' great-great-grandfathers never knew. The youngest tech priest, barely past his initiation, stares up at the Ancient in the central alcove with undisguised awe. The chassis is beyond Ancient now, a relic from ages past. Its armor is covered in tally marks, 40,000 of them, maybe more, scratched into every surface with obsessive precision. "What are those marks?" the young priest asks. His mentor, elderly and scarred by decades of service, shakes his head. "No one knows. They were there when I inherited this post. Perhaps they mark victories. Perhaps they count the years. The Ancient has served longer than records exist." The young priest moves closer, drawn to the sarcophagus like iron to a lodestone. Does he dream? In his sleep between deployments? The elderly tech priest's expression grows hard. Ancients don't dream. They are beyond such mortal concerns. They exist in a state of blessed contemplation between service, communing with the Emperor and the machine spirits. "He must have been a great hero," the young priest says reverently, "to serve so long." "The greatest," his mentor confirms. "Ancient Thandros, the eternal watchman. He will serve until the stars burn cold." Inside the sarcophagus, in the darkness between seconds, in the space where consciousness flickers like a dying candle, Thandros is screaming, has been screaming for 4,000 years, will always be screaming. His mind, what's left of it, scattered fragments of identity held together by failing neurons and corrupted memory, focuses on a single word, the only word that matters anymore, the only thought he can still form with any clarity. Not help, not please, just kill me. He pushes it toward his vox emitter with everything he has left, every remaining synapse, every degraded pathway, every last echo of the Marine he used to be. The word never reaches the vox, never makes it past the behavioral inhibitors installed 3,000 years ago. It just echoes in the black, bouncing around the prison of his skull, a prayer to gods who stopped listening millennia ago. Kill me, kill me, kill me. The sedatives are too strong. The chemical suppressants are too thorough. He can't even move his thoughts anymore, just endlessly repeat this single desperate plea in the darkness. The young tech priest activates the awakening sequence for a training exercise. "I want to see how the ancient systems work, how such a venerable machine comes to life. Fluids drain, chemicals flood, neural interfaces engage. Ancient Thandros's optical sensors flicker to life, amber light spilling into the Reclusium's gloom. His vox emitter crackles, honored to serve, for the chapter, for the Emperor." The words are perfect, crisp, exactly what doctrine requires. Inside he's still screaming, has been screaming, will always be screaming. The tech priests nod, satisfied. Another successful awakening, another testament to the chapter's ancient glory. They don't hear what I'm really saying. They never have. They never will. I've been awake for 4,000 years, and I still haven't fallen asleep.